in terms of the business environment, there are norms, there are rules, and there is a way of functioning. So I want to understand from you, how have the rules in the business environment, or the norms in the business environment, how have they changed, in the recent years, and what are the new global trends that you see in international business?
So, yeah, thank you. Thank you for that question. That sets the context in some ways. And at least during the last 12 months, wherever I was speaking, I used to use this term, the rules of the world are changing. And the reason why I cite that, or I say that way, is if I can give you 4 or 5 reasons why we see it that way. One is the accelerated push towards sustainability. We don't quite understand the implication of it, but it's quite disruptive. In fact, see, the way in which we produce energy, store energy, transport, deploy, and use, all of that is going to change. That is not just about the hydrocarbon energy industry. It's a lot about how we live today. For example, if I quote as an example in the business context, if you take Siemens Energy, they have about $50 billion of business in the gas turbines itself. That's a generation of energy from coal or from diesel. That's all going to change. All of the cars, or at least most of the cars that we use, or the automobiles that we use, they have an IC engine, internal combustion engine. All of that is going to go. So significant amount of labor demand shift that's going to take place. That's one. Number two, all of us know that the geopolitical situation is becoming worse, or is remaining as unstable as it was, and which is remapping the supply chains around the world. For instance, when Ukraine and Russia, that conflict came, if you look at the oil flow from Russia and the Middle East, which is, all of that got remapped. And again, the China plus one strategy is again remapping supply chains. So that's one. The third one, and which is most impactful perhaps for us, is the deglobalization trends. Last year, 2024, about 74 countries went to polls to select their leaders. 74 രാജ്യങ്ങൾ. And one thing, if you really look at and notice it, analyze it, is clear is there is a significant swing to the right. Protectionist tendencies are very clear. So globalization was once upon a time. Actually, globalization means only supporting trade and global sourcing. So that is the third one, deglobalization trends, the protectionist tendencies. In fact, these trends are working against trade, which in fact has actually led to a lot of global prosperity. That's another change. And the next one is something that we all know. The world is, including Kerala, is graying and aging. Less people have to work for more people to provide for more people. For example, if you take Germany in 2050, and this is a prediction with pretty much plus minus 0.5% accuracy, 35% less people work in 2050. 2050 ജർമ്മനിയിൽ ഇന്ന് വർക്ക് ചെയ്യുന്നത് 2020 വർക്ക് ചെയ്യുന്നതിൻ്റെ ഒരു 35% ലെസ് ആളുകളെ വർക്ക് ചെയ്യുള്ളൂ. ലൈഫ് എക്സ്പെക്റ്റൻസി ഈസ് ഇൻക്രീസിങ്. So that's another thing. And last but not the least in that category, why am I saying rule of the world is changing for another reason? The uncertainties relating to or associated with artificial intelligence. And I am in the travel industry, travel tech industry. So when I travel and meet my customers, the senior lot, the first question, or at least one question that they will certainly ask me, is how is AI going to impact my business, and what is it that I should be aware of, beware of, and how do I at least survive this, if not I get benefited. So these are the general or macro changes. പലപ്പോഴും നമ്മൾ ശ്രദ്ധിക്കാറില്ല, but I think it's very important for us to be cognizant of it.
Definitely. Speaking about AI and the transformation of jobs, how do you think the youth of India, of Kerala, how do you think that we can equip ourselves to ensure that we have the skill set, or that we have we have the knowledge to adapt to the new kind of jobs that is going to come up? And is it I mean, I've heard both sides of the conversation where AI is supposed to help you and AI is supposed to assist you and not completely replace you. Now, in a world like this, how do you think that we can equip ourselves to ensure that we are updated and knowledgeable enough to, have, good jobs and understand also the kind of jobs that are coming?
So, ഒരു വലിയ ആൻസർ വേണ്ട ഒരു ചോദ്യമാണ്, എന്നാലും ഞാൻ ചെറുതായിട്ട് പറയാം. See, if you really look at, if you study even within the context of AI, the labor demand projections for the next 5+ years up to until 2030, ലോകത്തിൽ ഇന്ത്യ അടക്കം നോക്കിയാൽ, one thing that is very clear is that there will be a significant demand increase for the STEM jobs, which are science, technology, math, engineering, math. Or a significant increase. A number of jobs will come down, demand, particularly sales, automatable pala jobs, but then mostly the STEM jobs demands will go up. However, what you have to keep in mind is that the change in the skill set needed or the competencies needed in the STEM jobs is also going to be maximum. It's roughly about 35 to 40%. The way in which we are working today in my company or your company or wherever that you're working, or 40% or 30 to 40% of the people have to be working differently, or 40% of the work will be different. അതൊരു വലിയ ഒരു ഇതാണ്. ഇപ്പം ഒരു ആങ്ഷ്യസ്, ഇപ്പോൾ മോസ്റ്റ് ഓഫ് ദ കൺട്രീസ്, നമ്മുടെയൊക്കെ ലീഡേഴ്സ് കുറച്ച് ആങ്ഷ്യസ് ആവുന്നതിൻ്റെ റീസൺ, see the productivity impact of AI, particularly Gen AI, is pretty much accurately estimated by McKinsey. That impact is roughly about 2.5 to 4% of the global GDP, which is about 4 trillion, which is greater than the GDP of UK. Athra impact and productivity impact. And if you look at AI in existing systems, ഇപ്പോൾ നമ്മൾ ഉപയോഗിക്കുന്ന, ഇപ്പോൾ SAP enterprise സിസ്റ്റംസിലാണെങ്കിലും ഞങ്ങളുടെയൊക്കെ ടെക്നോളജി സിസ്റ്റംസിലുള്ള AI കൂടെ ഉപയോഗിക്കുകയാണെങ്കിൽ it can even be double. ഈ ഇമ്പാക്റ്റ് ഏറ്റവും കൂടുതൽ വരുന്നത് 3-4 സ്ഥലത്താണ്. That's important. So, and first one I will say customer interaction. Customer interaction എന്ന് വെച്ചാൽ, ഉദാഹരണത്തിന്, supposing one of us wants to buy a car and we want to find out more about the car, typically you can call, if you don't go to the dealer, you will call them and ask about the car. But tomorrow, when this is asked, you will not even recognize that the answer is coming from a chatbot on the other side, and that machine actually, or that agent, will be able to very quickly know whether it is me or Mayura, and whether I am a car enthusiast or just a functional user of the car. They will be able to very quickly know, and accordingly it will moderate and modulate its conversation. So those kinds of jobs. Second, sales and marketing. Those who are involved in sales and marketing, sales and marketing, creative content ഉണ്ടല്ലോ, and that's the most difficult part. ഇപ്പം നമുക്ക് ഒരു 100 പേരെടുത്ത് കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ not even 5 will be great in that particular trade. And creative content can be easily provided by artificial AI machines. So that is one area it will be impacted. And third one is ഞങ്ങളുടെ ഫീൽഡാണ്. And even though that's what I said, STEM jobs ആണ് ഏറ്റവും കൂടുതൽ ഡിമാൻഡെങ്കിലും, what happens is today 80% of the 4.6 million software engineers that we have in the country, or 80% of the time we actually spend in generating the code, computer code. Adinde or a considerable part the machine will be able to churn. For example, or a library management system or a journalism management system. Adinde requirements, if you can prompt the machine properly, it will be able to produce initially, let's face it, maybe 30% accurate code, and then I can fine tune it. But once I fine tune it, I even get the machine to learn that more. അപ്പോൾ അങ്ങനെ വരുമ്പോഴത്തേക്കും, so over time, we should be able to get considerable part of the code generated by the computer. This is a significant thing with respect to the jobs in future. ഇപ്പോൾ ഇന്ത്യയിലെ ഞാൻ പറഞ്ഞത് 4.6 million ഡയറക്ട്ലി എംപ്ലോയ്ഡ് സോഫ്റ്റ്വെയർ എഞ്ചിനീയേഴ്സ് ഉണ്ട്. സോഫ്റ്റ്വെയർ എഞ്ചിനീയേഴ്സ് വിൽ ബിക്കം പ്രോംപ്റ്റിംഗ് എഞ്ചിനീയേഴ്സ്. അപ്പോൾ ഇങ്ങനത്തെ ഒരു മേജർ ഷിഫ്റ്റ് വരുന്നുണ്ട്. ആൻഡ് വാട്ട് ഈസ് ഇറ്റ് ദാറ്റ് you and me, and in fact the government, industry, academia, what is it that we should do to equip our people to be able to be fit for that kind of an environment? എന്നുള്ളതൊരു വലിയ ചോദ്യം തന്നെ. It's not just the academia. I think it's government. All of us have a bigger role to play.
I think all of us do. I completely agree with you. When we're working, I think especially people who are working with us, it is our responsibility as well to ensure that we give the training and knowledge that they need for what's coming. So you spoke about software engineers, and we spoke about. I'd like to ask you something about the IT industry of India. See, in the Indian IT industry has significantly enhanced the image of our country in a certain way. And what do you think attributes to this success? And why do you think that why do you think that the talent here is so great? And what makes us
interesting, Mayura. This question was asked to me. I was in Bombay yesterday. We had a Harvard alumni meeting. And there, one of the person who came from abroad, he asked this question: what is the reason for the success of IT industry, and how IT industry shaped in some ways the trajectory, the future trajectory of our country? My answer to that is probably fourfold. One, these companies, when we started in the 70s, people like F.C. Kohli, and later Narayana Murthy, and Wipro's, Premji, they're all middle-class leaders, very professionally qualified leaders. And they were the founding guys of this. And initially, we were not providing any service. We were actually exposing the talent of the best of people in our country to be used by the Western world. So they were hiring initially. FC Kohli used to hire from IITs. Yes. And then the third factor. So one is the founders. Number two, the talent, and what we did with that. Number three, that's even more interesting. These guys have. If you ask in the 2000. One of the things that they will say is, not India, we are not known for software that way. But one thing they will always say, that they are very credible and trustworthy. Because these people worked, and there was this was a completely above the table, above the board game, and there was no corruption, nothing. And fortunately, there was no tax. It was mostly export. So there was no tax, and so they were not subject to a particular fraternity of our society, which is a difficult one for a lot of entrepreneurs, and they didn't have to go through. And the fourth one is another, the bureaucracy and the government did not know about what is going on. ഞാൻ ഉദാഹരണത്തിന് IBSന്റെ the company inaugurate ചെയ്ത് കഴിഞ്ഞിട്ട് അന്ന് ചീഫ് മിനിസ്റ്റർ 1997 Sri E.K. Nayanar ആയിരുന്നു, and we also had Sushila Gopalan coming. And I took them around our small office at that point in time. അപ്പം എന്നോട് ചീഫ് മിനിസ്റ്റർ ചോദിച്ചു, so I said it's mostly, so നമ്മളുടെ ചരക്ക് എവിടെയാണ്? Where is, so he asked in all earnestness and sincerity. So I did not know how to exactly explain how this happens. So I just used one word. So this is database and data. So it goes through the wire. So the lot of bureaucratic difficulties which we didn't have the license Raj controlling us. And some of these things actually helped. Thereafter, of course, STPI and a lot of government support was also there thereafter. Yeah. So that's the reason why IT industry. And if you really ask me, the respect our country has got lot of credit to be given to these leaders who created the industry. In fact, I remember I was telling when I was speaking, I said in 1982 is the first time I went outside the country. I went to UK. The kind of non-existence of us was so evident in every interaction. And but today, if you say that you are from India, the first, recollection for them is, oh, you must be all the technology software guys. Is the kind of change that has actually taken place. Yeah.
That's truly an incredible change to
Yeah,
have. But at the same time, when you just spoke about seeing this in US, etc. See, there's a huge unhealthy, very unhealthy pattern of migration that's happening. Now, this migration, let it be out of Kerala into different cities or even out of India, and it's been actually rapidly growing. So, what do you think is the reason for this migration, and what can we do as a state, let it be in terms of the bureaucracy, or let it be even in terms of job providers, or any space? What can we do to kind of at least mediate this pattern, or at least stop this pattern from growing so rapidly?
So, if you take the state of Kerala, let's actually look at the state of Kerala. Migration always, there was always there. But ഇപ്പോൾ നമ്മൾ മനസ്സിലാക്കേണ്ട ഒരു സംഗതി, the progress of a place in a connected world and a connected economy depends on our ability to attract and retain talent, unlike in the olden days. Because you can work from anywhere, yeah, to some extent. So our ability to attract and retain talent is so important and more important. And the impact, or exponential impact on that. If you look at our place, we have about 35 lakhs or 3.5 million migrant workers here. And we have a considerable part of our people going outside. That's an unhealthy migration, because unlike United States, where the best of brains go there and they offload, so to say, tasks which are at the lower end of the value chain to India and China. Our best of brains is going out, and which is in some ways getting replaced. I'm not saying it's replaced by migrant labor. I'm not against that. But and why is it happening, Mayura? The reason why it happens is we don't have jobs which matches their aspiration and also their qualification. A boy or a girl from Kerala, he doesn't want to do the jobs that we have today as a plumber or an electrician. And we haven't elevated them to a level that they will take pride in it. And the reason is, that is the main reason. They don't find those jobs. So if you ask me, what should be our single-minded focus? Should be to actually create more and more successful enterprise and well-paying jobs. Well-paying jobs. Any jobs, Malayali, you will not get. We have to have successful enterprises and well-paying jobs. All of us, you, me, the government agencies, morning till night, this should be our thinking. How do I promote? How do I create more successful enterprises? And there is plenty of opportunity, because we are known for our talent. Kerala is known for the talent. The common sense of a Keralite is known worldwide. Yeah? So I think that is one of the things that we should do.
Definitely. If I can add on there, I also feel like the infrastructure also that we have, not in terms of I'm talking about even like for entertainment, etc. The need to also have that in life, I feel, is also...
That is the social infrastructure. So why do you... Now, let's actually just add to this. If you really want to look at this problem comprehensively, we must have a vision for our state. Our elections are coming. And one of the questions we should ask to all the potential parties who are aspiring for the next term, what do you envision as our future should be? The vision for our place. I would put it this way, the only thing, I think the vision for Kerala should be a great place to live and work. I would even put it this way to make it a little bit more inspirational, the finest place to live and work. And if it's a good place to live, it will be a great place to work too. And that's all what we need to do. And for that, I will also suggest, this is what I would suggest.
Yes.
Just two parts. Clean Kerala. If we can have the places where we live, if we can have the waste properly managed, if it's done. And the second one is about the safe Kerala. That means safe to drink water, safety from disasters, safe to travel roads, all of this. If you do this much, that is enough. The rest will come all together. Yeah, I'm sure social infrastructure is a requirement, but these are the fundamental things required.
Sir. Thank you so much for shedding light on that. I think that was very important to, put that across. Let me just move to a different trajectory here in a certain way. Where do you, in terms of India, where do you think India stands in the new, world economic order? And where do you think we are as a country at the moment?
So I should be able to say about it because Mr. Dowell's son was actually speaking. And so also 2-3 guys were talking. And one of the things that they were talking about, Kiran Nandani was speaking, and we had Rajiv Bajaj speaking. So it's very interesting. I'll put it this way. About 15 months back, the CEO of McKinsey visited India. And that was highly publicized in the world because he said something. So he was asked by, like Mayura, somebody asked him when he was in India, "Sir, people say that this is India's decade. What do you say?" He said, "No." He said, "It's India's century." This is what he said. And he cannot, he's the CEO of the number one, consulting company in the world, so he cannot just arbitrarily say like that. So people ask, why do you say it's India's century? He said, he gave 3 reasons for it. And the number one reason was, by 2047, when India is 100 years since independence, 20% of the world's relevant talent will be in our country. That's the number one thing, that advantage that we have. Number 2, the geopolitical tensions will continue to be there. When we are putting out the fire somewhere elsewhere, it will start. So all of that can be, and the supply chains will get remapped, and the remapping of the supply chain because of the geopolitical tensions can be to our advantage, and India can be a big benefactor. And the third one, a lot of credit to some of the people who contributed to it. The third reason, and which I completely believe, is that if you look at India, we still are a relatively low-income country per capita wise. And we are a very complex nation. But in spite of that, we are digitally very advanced. And the digitization so any developmental pursuit the country now pursue, we should be able to leapfrog in our developmental initiatives. So this is what it says. And this was corroborated by a study by EY, India 100. And that study says, it's a 60 pages study which they presented in World Economic Forum. And they said, we will be a $25 trillion economy, nominal I'm talking about, and about $15,000 per capita, which is, and the third largest economy in the world. And this is going to be, we will be the third largest economy in the world. In my view, even without purchase power parity, we will be there by 2028. So unless something very different happens, I think this is truly, the next 2 decades will be the greatest of decades. And I'm sure all of us should be able to see that in your lifetime, and some of us as well.
Definitely. We were talking about per capita income. I just want to know what your views on this year's budget tax regime is as well.
India's budget?
India's budget in terms of the tax.
I would think that it was quite a responsible budget. Total government spending is 50 lakhs crores, and of which, if you really look at about 11 and a half, it's a very interesting question. I have written about it. So she has given a tax break of 1 lakh crore. which is about $12.5 billion. And 1 lakh crore that's actually given to the economy, it has a multiplier effect of 5, assuming, and it's true because people save 20%. So the VAT is collected on 80,000 or 1 lakh if you're spending. So it has a multiplier effect of 5 lakh crore. 5 times. So 1 lakh crore become 5 lakh crore. Now, what was India's in the GDP calculation? India's consumption, so it's consumption plus investment plus export minus import. You know, it's computed. The consumption part was 100 lakh crore last year. 100 lakh crore for last year. So if I add 5 lakh crore to it, the consumption goes up by 5%. Do you understand? So, and if I take it to the GDP, we will have another 2.5% GDP growth purely on account of it. And the government will get the money back through the GST and the direct and the indirect taxes. So, my response to that, in fact, Mayura, this has to be understood. Of course, the government needs money and the fiscal prudence and fiscal discipline is important, but we have to keep always this in mind. The money spent in the hands of the person who makes, the 1,000 rupees in the hands of the mother is any time better spent than in the hands of government. You have to really understand that. So if you take that, but of course you can't take it too far because we need money for the system to run. So I will give, I was pretty okay because it's not very tempting. There's no big declarations there, but I would say that it was a pretty responsible budget.
I think I'm with you there, sir, as well, especially with the last statement, that was made. In terms of businesses, I think there are a lot of budding entrepreneurs here, and there are a lot of people who are already in business here. And there were a few things, again, I just want to get back to the IT industry here. There were a few things that the IT industry did. So what is it that the other industries and business, what can we learn from that? And how do you think that we can boost, good businesses in every industry? What are the few practices you feel would be necessary for us to, sustain the same?
So we talked about why IT industry. So we have PH Kurian here. He was the IT secretary for long. So we talked about what made the IT industry and why it became successful. And one of the reasons why it was successful is it had some sort of a global perspective to it. Because even today, out of the $255 billion of last year's IT output revenue, almost 90% is international revenue. So what does it actually mean? These institutions, these IT companies have governance, compliance, processes, all of that as best-in-class international companies. So in my view, if you really want to succeed in business in future, in India, you really have to have a business of credibility, compliance, governance. You cannot ask, you ask others to do bad business, and then you cannot ask your employees to actually be sincere to the company. I think governance, compliance, credible businesses. And again, we have one problem in our country which also has to change. There are a lot of entrepreneurs, but we should keep in mind that large organizations and very large organizations are very much needed for a country, as much as the startups. Large corporations, but compliant corporations, because they have a lot of operating leverage. Yes. We are talking about if government has to be giving some part of its work to be done by private, it should not be given to somebody, an aspiring entrepreneur. No. Government should be giving to an organization which has the track record, competence, and a reputation to protect. Quite as an example, TCS managing passport service. And if it was given to a small timer who is a relative of somebody or whatever, the situation would have been completely different. Government will not be able to control. So it should be given to companies which are above board, credible, and a reputation to lose, and the financial strength and the track record. So in general, I think what will make a good company? There's plenty of opportunities, but I think do the business properly and run it properly. Yeah.
Definitely. But so don't you think we should also give spaces for the newer companies also to kind of achieve that credibility? And, because by the end of the day, it is only with experience and with more trust can, even smaller businesses run and, gain that
I think
momentum, right?
the future is with the startups and the innovation and the new companies. And good that Kerala, as well as nationally, we have a very good startup ecosystem. And what is it that one of the things that the government should do, and I'm sure industry will as well do, is to support and promote and do that. And that is not, in my view, by giving government jobs or such critical jobs to them. No, that's better done because it's clearly defined. It's better done by people who can do it. But these are the startups, and they are the disruptors, and they will make quantum leap and so I would put it this way. I certainly would like to add this, and again, it's a slightly shift in the thought process of a lot of people. See, what is government's role and what should be government's role, particularly for India in the next 20 years? Of course, they're a regulator and a facilitator, regulator and a facilitator. And government should never operate or run businesses, not at all. And to the extent possible, don't even provide any service to citizens. Because governments cannot provide service, even in the best in class. So government makes sure that services are provided by people to the agencies which are interested to do it properly and ensure that. Or that's what I would say. And this will be a very controversial statement if I say this, because of our background, and maybe because of several years of colonization, we have a very public sector mindset. All of us, we have a very public sector mindset. If I really look at, most of the public sector companies are loss-making companies. Obviously, you can't do because people are there, their employees are there, and their children, all of that is there. But we are not doing any favor to ourselves by actually doing all of these public sector. There was a time when it was required for the government to invest. Nobody had money to invest. But this is not the time where the government can be in businesses.
I think public-private partnership goes a long way here, and accelerating that as much as possible as well.
Public-private partnership, but the private runs and the government actually supports.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for that. So in terms of we just spoke about the industry and how about governments and jobs, etc. This might be a repetition, but I just want to re-emphasize and reiterate here. What is it that companies can do? Government? What are some of the retaining strategies that one can adopt in a company? Say from an employee perspective and from an employer perspective. Because by the end of the day, it's about retaining talent.
So if you look at some of the global professional companies in the country, they don't lose talent to outside world, not as much. Whereas where do you lose talent? People pass out, or people go for education. They don't want to come back. Their parents don't want their children to come back either. So once upon a time, it used to be that you pass out and then go outside for a job because you don't have jobs. Now, existing companies don't have. But the solution to this is you will be able to retain a boy or a girl only if there is a job which matches her aspiration. Otherwise, because she is aware of what is available outside the country. Somehow or other, she would like to actually have access to that. And you cannot stop them. There's no way. You can only create an opportunity here. And what is it that you can do to create opportunities here is promote more and more private sector. Okay. Private sector has to be promoted.
We have a very discerning audience over here. And if it's okay with you, sir, I mean, there are a lot of questions, of course, I have in mind. But then I would love to, pass it over to the audience for questions.
Yeah, sure.
I have a question. See, you are a leader in the software industry in the country and, of course, internationally as well. Now, we are talking of India maybe coming of age in the next 10 years. And with the introduction of course, now you have the quantum computing, wherein chip speeds are in excess of 1 septillion BPS and all. And we are nowhere. We are nowhere in the what they call the quantum space. How will we adapt to a situation when a quantum computing systems are in place, maybe in a matter of the next 5 to 10 years?
So, for those who are not from the field, quantum physics or quantum computing will help us compute so much more faster than the traditional computing is, what in a gist that it means. And I would like to also bring a lot of questions come in this area and the AI area. The question is this: what should we do? Because AI is going to take over everything. What should we do? My number one answer is, not everybody, not every company, of course, as a country we should, not every company should develop artificial intelligence engines. No, you don't have to, because it will become a commodity. It's an evolving commodity. It changes very fast. And the big players who are investing hundreds of billions of dollars are trying to make agents or AI engines, which you and me should be able to use. My answer is this. Remember, we used to talk about IQ, bright students, and so then we talk about, we also need leaders who has EQ to get people to work together. Now, I will tell you this. There is going to be another very important dimension which is applicable to all of us, is called AQ. That is the action coefficient. I'll tell you why. I'll simplify, I'll take 2 minutes to explain this. How should we perceive AI? What is the right metaphor to describe AI? I'll put it this way, ladies and gentlemen. Life will be lived in both real space and a digital space. We are already doing that. We have so much of technology already in your iPhone or smartphone. And yeah, if you have the digital dexterity, then you are using even today. Now, I would say AI, the right metaphor probably to start with, is that it is a digital species. It's a digital companion. And I'll explain that, but when you talk about a digital companion, it can become your best friend. It can become your tax assistant, tax advisor. It can become your medical advisor. It can be your business strategist. It can be your partner, spouse, whatever. Yeah, it will. And when you say this, a lot of people will ask, and when I say this, a lot of people ask me as well. When you say species, it has a biological nature to it. But this is mathematics, algorithms, and code, computer code. How can you say that this is a species? I will ask you this, and in fact, some very well-known people have asked. If you tell me that this is mathematics, algorithm, and microcode, computer code, I'll ask you, what are you? What am I? What are we? We are just water and carbon, isn't it? And if you really want to have a comparison as a species, don't look at how it is in physical state, but look at what it can do for you. You can communicate with it in your own language. It can see like what you see. It can process, it can take a lot of data and process it and make sense like you are doing. It has memory much better than what you and me have. We have much more sophisticated, but the other fellow is much more predictable memory. It can act autonomously if you allow it to do. And it can be creative, and it has a personality. And it can be imaginative. So tomorrow you have your daughter's birthday, 3 years, and if you really want to have a poem written, it will give you the poem in no time. And if you want to have bedside stories in Malayalam to be told to children before they go to bed, then it will do it for you. So all of that it is doing. And that's the reason why. And it also learns. And after some time, it will know you perhaps better than even yourself. So it'll say, ma'am, I don't think perhaps you will like it. You might think that you're liking it, but it is quite possible that you can get. Now, if it goes like this, so I'm just taking that as an extra one. Is it very dangerous? I'll say in the last World Economic Forum, the World Economic Forum every year produces something called Global Risk Perception Report, Perception Survey Report, GPRS. And one of the three biggest risks, which was identified by nation heads and the business leaders and leaders of civil society, was the misinformation, disinformation, and the risk and uncertainties about AI. But let me tell you this, that's not how it is going to happen. It will not happen like that. Because unlike all the major breakthroughs and milestones in human progress, if you look at humanity, for example, I'll tell you, we discovered continents, but we plundered their wealth, we colonized them. We actually instituted extractive institution to extract resources. We, found hydrocarbon, oil, and then the planet is getting polluted. But here, I am writing the code, I am educating the code, I am putting the guardrails, the government is putting regulations. So we are building a species which has its own conscience, and it will not be able to do things that it cannot. So safety has to be at the core of it. It is quite like you and me nurture our children and offspring. Why is it that our children do not shoot and kill us once we have done the responsibility of educating them? Why they don't do that? Why do they take care of the parents? Is because we have nurtured them and we have built that into the genes and gradually. And here, we should be able to do it. We should be able to preserve all that we cherish in humanity, such as, compassion, generosity, love, creativity, curiosity, all of those. It should be possible. So I'm just digressing a little bit. So artificial intelligence, I'm answering your question.
Job opportunities that you are providing, as a common man from Kerala, I'm only asking that.
So
will your hiring will come down with all this?
So
no, the dangers of AI in general, you said.
Yeah.
Partly I agree with that. But what he asked is, what will happen to the industry per se?
So
industry per se, in the common man sense, is the number of hiring that you do.
Sure. So I'll answer. So the quantum computing per se does not, so quantum computing is how fast
Point
you...
is,
When
you talk of a quantum chip, the speeds are in excess of 1 septillion
Sure.
bits
So
per second.
So today, I
when
understand.
that sort of a chip comes into play, where do we all stand?
The quantum chip vis-a-vis the combination of million current chip is actually doing computing and the speed of computing. So one becomes much more efficient. But the impact, as I said, to the jobs that we have today is because the software engineering jobs will reduce and prompting engineering jobs will increase. That is why I said in the next 10 years or 5 years up to 2030, the results are there. What is expected is that the STEM jobs, Korean, again, our jobs, the technology kind of jobs, demand will increase. However, the kind of work that they do, the competence that is needed is going to change. That's the difference. So software engineers, people who code, will become prompting engineers, meaning that they have to move up the value chain. Instead of writing the code, they have to say, what should be my, say, library management system do? So it should have the inventory control, it should have the subscription control and things like that. So that you explain from actually from a business process to system specs. And so that's how the use cases will flow. So there will be shift. Now, in our expectation is that in the near term, there will be some reduction in the hiring, because more and more companies are using, and you will be able to generate consumable part or some part of the code.
Sir, a question. Like India is usually able to achieve great feats with limited technology. Like ipa ISRO ഒക്കെ ഒരു നല്ല example ആണ്. Okay, right now, but what's happening in the field of AI, as he mentioned before, ചൈനയിലാണെങ്കിൽ ഡീപ് സീക്കും അതുപോലത്തെ കമ്പനീസും ലിമിറ്റഡ് GPU കേപ്പബിലിറ്റിയിൽ ഡീപ് സീക്ക് പോലത്തെ മോഡൽസ് ഇറക്കുന്നുണ്ട്. ആൻഡ് ഇന്ത്യയുടെ ആൻസർ ആയിട്ട് ആകപ്പാട് ഇപ്പോൾ ഇതുവരെ വന്നേക്കുന്ന കൃത്രിമ AI എന്ന് പറയുന്ന സാധനമാണ്. ആൻഡ് ഹോണസ്റ്റ്ലി it's a 95% clone of OpenAI's ChatGPT itself. അതിൻ്റെ കോഡ് എടുത്ത് നോക്കിയാൽ തന്നെ അറിയാം. വൈസ് ഇപ്പം പരസ്റ്റോപ്ര ആക്ച്വലി ഒരു കമ്പനി തുടങ്ങിയിട്ടുണ്ട് ടു കോമ്പാറ്റ് ദിസ്. പക്ഷേ വൈ ഹാസ് ഇന്ത്യ ബിൻ സോ ലേറ്റ് ടു റെസ്പോണ്ട് ടു ദ ഗ്ലോബൽ ടെക് ചേഞ്ച്? ദാറ്റ്സ് വൺ ക്വസ്റ്റ്യൻ. ആൻഡ് അലോങ് വിത്ത് ദാറ്റ്, ഇപ്പം ചൈനയിലാണെങ്കിൽ റെഡ്മി പോലത്തെ കമ്പനീസ് ആക്ച്വലി റോബോട്ടിക്സും ലൈക്ക് ദേ ഹാവ് എ വൈഡ് അറേ ഓഫ് പ്രോഡക്ട്സ് that the consumers in China are adapting rapidly. ഇപ്പോൾ അതിൻ്റെ ഒരു എക്സാമ്പിൾ എന്ന് വെച്ചാൽ നമ്മുടെ ഈ റോബോട്ട് വാക്യൂം ക്ലീനേഴ്സ് ഉണ്ട്. ലൈക്ക് ഐ എം ബേസ്ഡ് ഔട്ട് ഓഫ് ഖത്തർ. സോ ഖത്തറിൽ റെഡ്മിയുടെ ഒരു ടെക്നോളജിക്കൽ ഷോക്കേസ് ഉണ്ടായിരുന്നു. അവിടെ ഞാൻ പോയപ്പോൾ ഞാൻ ആക്ച്വലി ഞെട്ടിപ്പോയി. അവിടെ ഉള്ള എല്ലാ ആൾക്കാരും ഇതേപോലെ 200 റിയാൽസ് 300 റിയാൽസിന് ഒന്ന് ഈ റോബോട്ട് വാക്യൂം മേടിച്ചുകൊണ്ട് പോവാ. നാട്ടിൽ ഇതുപോലെ റോബോട്ട് വാക്യൂം ഒരു വീട്ടിൽ കണ്ട ഇവൻ എന്താണ് പറയുന്നത്, വല്ല സയൻസ് ഫിക്ഷൻ മൂവിയിൽ വന്നതാണോ എന്നാണ് ആൾക്കാർ ആലോചിക്കുന്നത്. സോ ആ ഒരു കോൺസെപ്റ്റ് എങ്ങനെ മലയാളികളിൽ നിന്ന് നമുക്ക് കൊടുക്കാൻ പറ്റും എന്ന് വെച്ചാൽ ഒരു പ്രോപ്പർ ടെക്നോളജിക്കൽ പ്രോഡക്റ്റ് ഫ്രം ദ ഫ്യൂച്ചർ എങ്ങനെ അഡോപ്റ്റ് ചെയ്യിപ്പിക്കാൻ പറ്റും? ദാറ്റ്സ് ദ സെക്കൻഡ് ക്വസ്റ്റ്യൻ.
ശരിക്കും താങ്ക് യു. അതിൻ്റെ റിലവൻറ്റ് പാർട്ട് ഓഫ് ദാറ്റ് ക്വസ്റ്റ്യൻ ഈസ് we have been able to achieve significant advancements through frugal innovation. നമ്മളുടെ മാർസ് മിഷൻ്റെ കോസ്റ്റ് മറ്റേ ഗ്രാവിറ്റി എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞിട്ടുള്ള ആ ഒരു മൂവിയുടെ പ്രൊഡക്ഷൻ കോസ്റ്റിനേക്കാൾ കുറവായിരുന്നു. So tremendous amount of advancements we can achieve because of our frugal innovation capability or mindset even. So that will continue. But again, the question is, if you look at, we have very renowned IT companies, in India. They will all they're all driven by economic goals basically, and they also have short term and the long term goals. In the long term, they definitely would like to see that we have competence and some of the technology that which the rest of the US will not give, we should be able to develop. And probably everything is influenced by economics. And that's the reason why, including, as I said, the 74 elections, everything is going to the right, is also based on economics. I would actually say the capitalist West has kept the East social, so that you have got labor cheap here, and they will be able to actually source it from this part of the world. And other economics in the play, I think that's where it is.
First, I would like to share an observation regarding the topic, because ever since I've been in Kerala, right from the time I was born, one way or the other way, we will be migrating. Like initially, we will go to the Middle East for the jobs. Later, I started to see people using IT as a podium to go to US. And I know many people used to ask, okay, you haven't been to US, you are working in an IT company, that is another way. Now, via education, in the name of education, people are migrating to different parts of the world. So is this an issue of a mindset or something regarding the social, political environment? That's my first question. I want to know your viewpoint regarding that one. And the second one is, what is going to be a significant revolution that's going to happen in the airline industry? That's my second question.
Two questions. Why this kind of migration? നമ്മൾ കേരളത്തിൽ നിന്നുള്ള നോക്കിയാൽ നമുക്ക് പണ്ട് കാലം മുതൽ people are quite I would say daring from that point of view, and they will always, there's a lot of, used to be always migration. India no undarunnu, കേരളത്തിൽ നിന്ന് വളരെ കൂടുതൽ ഉണ്ടായിരുന്നു, particularly in certain sectors. There's nothing wrong. അന്ന് അത് ചെയ്യാനുള്ള മെയിൻ റീസൺ they didn't have opportunity. ഇന്ന് നടക്കുന്നത് അത് തന്നെയാണ്. But there is a big difference. The difference is the impact of this migration to that place is going to be far more impactful. The impact is very high. നമ്മളൊരു ഗ്ലോബലി കണക്റ്റഡ് വേൾഡ് ആണല്ലോ ഇപ്പം. അതുകൊണ്ട് തന്നെ, because the impact of the migration, this place, Kerala will progress only if we have a lot of brilliant people staying in Kerala. They should stay, work, earn, spend here. And they should be able to, experienced people should be able to handle startups. Not when you go and live elsewhere. And then most of the people here are not at the high end of the competence chain. So that is the reason why we should be very mindful of it, and we should try to create opportunity for youngsters. That's what I'm saying. Very good companies, well-paying jobs. Successful companies, well-paying jobs. Not government jobs. I mean, government jobs are good, but I'm not saying KSRTC and KCB job. You get the job and then you don't have to worry about anything. No disrespect intended, but that's not what we should be. That's the first part. The second part, what's happening in the airline industry. See, if at all something that has actually, what was the biggest learning for the aviation industry? Aviation industry or travel industry was the hardest hit. COVID, it was on the floor. No flights, no hotels, nothing. And the biggest learning, learning, the first one is what is it that you should do when you have no control when you're subject to market conditions on which you have no control? How will you respond to a situation where your revenues are drying up completely and your cost is pretty much the same? How do you respond to it? And second one was, how will you respond to the changing customer requirements so rapidly? In that, the consumer, the expectation that our next read is next second. You can read anything and your next ride is 5 minutes. Your next movie is probably 1 minute. Our expectations are changing. Yeah, ingante or environment, our identify the moon, because I'm part of the industry. 3 things. Number 1, accelerated technology adoption. And then ഞങ്ങൾ പറയുന്ന ഒരു term ഉണ്ട്, brilliant basics. All of your core process areas. If you're in banking, all of your core areas, use the best-in-class software products. The software that you write for yourself is the most expensive software. That's what something that we call as brilliant basics. You get the basics right. Number 2, we talk about digital dexterity. What it means is, how many of the people in a company are open to use new technology? And we all have, as I said, we carry a lot of technology, but we don't even use 10% of it. And the older you are or the senior you are pretty bad. And what is digital dexterity means? Your ambition to work digitally and your capability to work digitally. That's digital dexterity. Allengi ambition to build digital businesses and capability to build it. Gartner ഒരു സർവേ നടത്തി ഹാർവർഡ് ബിസിനസ് സ്കൂളും ആയിട്ട്. അപ്പം ആ സ്റ്റഡിയിൽ കണ്ടുപിടിച്ചത്, the best of institutions or the companies, the digital dexterity is only 16%. അപ്പോൾ ഇതാണ് രണ്ടാമത്തെ എയർലൈൻ ഇൻഡസ്ട്രിയുടെ. 3, സൂപ്പർ ചാർജ് കസ്റ്റമർ റിലേഷൻഷിപ്സ്. അഗെയിൻ കോവിഡ് ഒരു കാര്യം നമ്മളെ പഠിപ്പിച്ചു. If you are not party to the end consumer, if you don't interact with end consumer, if you don't enable end consumer, you are out of the business. Because you look at the Swiggy, Zomatos and the Uber Eats and Amazon Fresh, all of them, they take 90% of the value from the value chain. But whereas if you look at the rest of the people, the farmer, the logistics provider, the transport provider, the food processing company, to the chef, to the restaurant, they're all cost plus. So 3 things: brilliant basics, digital dexterity, supercharged customer relationships. That should be our priority.
Hi, I would like to ask a question on behalf of designers. Most of my friends are leaving this country and to catch their aspirations, and I'm seeing it as in a very optimistical way, because Malayalis are everywhere. ഇപ്പോൾ നോക്കുകയാണെങ്കിൽ മലയാളീസ് എന്ന് പറയുന്ന ഒരു എത്നിസിറ്റി നോക്കുമ്പം വേൾഡിൽ ഇത്രയും സ്പ്രെഡുള്ള ഒരു എത്നിസിറ്റി മലയാളീസാണ്. സോ അതിനെ നമുക്ക് എങ്ങനെ ഫ്രൂട്ട്ഫുള്ളി ഇനി കൊണ്ടുവരാം? എൻ്റെ ക്വസ്റ്റ്യൻ എന്ന് പറയുന്നത്, കേരള എന്ന് പറയുന്ന ഒരു പ്ലേസിനെ സാർ പറഞ്ഞു ഒരു ഫൈനസ്റ്റ് പ്ലേസ് ടു ലീവ് ആൻഡ് വർക്ക് എന്ന് പറയുന്ന ഒരു പ്ലേസ് ആയിട്ട് നമുക്ക് ബ്രാൻഡ് പൊസിഷൻ ചെയ്യാം എന്നുള്ള. അതേപോലെ വിഴിഞ്ഞത്തിൻ്റെ വരവോടുകൂടി ഒരു പൊട്ടൻഷ്യൽ ടു ബിക്കം ആൻ ഇൻ്റർനാഷണൽ സിറ്റി ആവാനുള്ള സാധ്യതയുണ്ട്. സോ അപ്പോൾ നമ്മളുടെ ഒരു ഐ ആസ്പയർ ടു ബിക്കം എ പൊളിറ്റീഷ്യൻ. സോ അപ്പോൾ അതിൻ്റെ ഒരു വിഷൻ ഡെവലപ്പ് ചെയ്യുന്നതിൻ്റെ പാർട്ടായിട്ട് സോ നമുക്ക് അതിൻ്റെ ഒരു ഡയറക്ഷൻ, ആ വിഷൻ ബിൽഡ് ചെയ്യുന്നതിൽ അതിൻ്റെ ഒരു ഡയറക്ഷൻ എങ്ങനെ ആയിരിക്കാം, ആ ഒരു ബ്രാൻഡ് പൊസിഷനിങ്?
So in reality, the question is, if you were to be a politician, supposing you were the chief minister of Kerala,
Yes.
or yeah, why not? How should one go about, or we can put the other way around? What should be the way the future leaders of Kerala think or act? What should be the strategy? This is what I was actually saying. Government's role should be to create law and act as a regulator, act as a facilitator. Nothing else. So if you infrastructure, basically infrastructure, basic education. I think it is the right of any Keralite or any Indian person to have minimum education, and basic health. It should be the fundamental right of our citizen to have basic health. Basic health, basic education, infrastructure, law and order. If you look at any of the place in the world, the place which progress is a place where there is peace and law, law and order, rule of law. ഇതായിരിക്കണം ഗവൺമെൻറ്റിൻ്റെ മെയിനായിട്ട്. ഞാൻ നേരത്തെ പറഞ്ഞല്ലോ, we would like to retain the best of talent, and we want to attract the talent. We want to get the best of brains from the rest of the country and the world to be here. And for that, the only thing, അതാണ് ഞാൻ പറഞ്ഞത്, full day, any government agency, anybody, you and me, citizens, how can we support creating successful enterprises here? We will not stand in their way. We want them to be successful, and more brilliant jobs here, more well-paying jobs. That should be our motto. Anything and everything. If you are the chief minister, the first question is, how is it going to create well-paying jobs here? That's the question. And if it doesn't get your attention. If you are a politician, that's what you should do. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for such an insightful conversation. And thank you, the lovely audience. You have been truly, truly amazing. Thank you so much.